Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Batter, a podcast about how brands, business owners, and entrepreneurs rise. I'm your host, Jill Miller of Vera Creative, a small marketing firm in the Chicagoland area, where I'm also a part-time instructor of an advertising course at St. Xavier University. Join me as I hang out and talk to people who know all about the ingredients to success and the recipes for disaster. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Batter. I am your host, Jill, and today I am here with John Dunia of shamedoctor.com. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jill. It's really a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is a little bit different. We're going to kind of switch roles where I'm going to be asking you some questions, and based on your answer, then I'm going to kind of take you through how I would work with a client just to show our listeners a little bit more about what it takes to get a newer business up and running from a marketing point of view. So tell our listeners a little bit about, so you and I talked about why you got into your business, and I want to know, let's start with, instead of the why, let's just start with where you're at today. What are the services that you offer your clients?
Well, the number one service that I offer is guiding, what I like to say, guiding people on their journeys of emotional healing and greater understanding. And that's the basis of what I do. And the reason I call myself the shame doctor is because one of those major things is healing people from the devastating effects that shame causes. And I'm sure we'll get into that later, but basically these things keep people stuck, and they don't even sort of realize the emotional healing. It leaves us in cases where we just get stuck and we don't know why. And that's that's bottom line where I start. And that's the basic service that I offer to, and it's not just people, it's kids too. It's a wide range. I feel like every one of us just has some area in our life that needs some kind of healing. And most of us can get through life without worrying about it. It's not that deep of a wound, but for many, it's really what keeps us stuck in this place where we just can't seem to move forward.
Right. So that's interesting. Right off the bat, you've told me you basically have two different target markets. So when we think about starting a business, launching a business, a lot of what we want to do in the very beginning stages is research. And we want to research not only our competitors and the industry and the services that we offer, but we want to have a deep understanding of who it is exactly that we're targeting. And although many people think that, well, anybody can use my business and anybody could use this service, or anybody could use just a heartfelt conversation to help lift their spirits or take them through a place, but try and get to the most specific target market that you can possibly get to. So even if you have a dual target market, children and adults, we want to try and narrow down who they are, not from a demographic only point of view, but also from a psychographic point of view. And I'm sure that you've heard the term psychographic before. Is that true?
Well, even if I haven't heard it, I certainly am well aware of what it means. And in fact, I think the psychographic is actually more important than any other demographic that I could even look to. Yes, and I do have a few thoughts on what those psychographics are. If you'd like me to say those.
Yeah, and so you usually do virtual meetings with people. So demographics don't really, it might be interesting to know demographics for targeting ads and whatnot, but in terms of you don't see people in an office, correct? You're mostly virtual.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, great. So we'll put the demographics aside for now. Let's look at some of the psychographics. What are some of the common psychographics among the people that you have helped or that you're aiming to help?
All right. Number one, people who've suffered from abuse, whether it's physical, mental, religious. That's a big part of it. And then there's sort of facets from that. I a lot of times help women who've been in really abusive relationships, and even more importantly, seem to constantly get sucked back into them, and they don't understand why. Why, I swear I'm never going to get in this abusive relationship again. In 6 months, they find themselves in the same place, and they just don't understand why that happens. Those are the kind of people that I really enjoy helping.
Right. Okay. So when we look to then kind of the next piece of marketing, and there's a lot more, I would encourage you to do two things. One, I would encourage you to write a business plan if you haven't, and it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be every section filled out. But if you just Google, business plan outline, you're going to find great resources that will kind of guide you through a basic business plan. But it can be really eye-opening once you dive into the different sections of the plan, and it can also spark ideas. It can just get your brain going on a brainstorming level to help you think like, oh, I should do this or I should do that. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't written a business plan, to do that. A lot of people think, well, I don't need one because I'm not getting a loan from the bank, or I don't need one because of whatever, but they're helpful. And then when you get stuck 2-3 years down the road, if you get stuck, it's a nice document to go back to and, okay, what was I thinking at that time? What has worked? What can I modify? So it's a nice tool to kind of have. So you do the business plan. I would continue to research more information about people who suffer abuse, just in terms of how can you, if you can find information about how that psychographic consumes or searches for help, that's going to be huge for you. And even we can think about ourselves. We can think about ourselves, and if we were in those situations, how would we go and find a counselor or a mentor or someone that we can confide in, right? Okay. You can think about, would you go to the internet? And if you went to the internet, what would you type in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so then you really want to come to like a clear objective. And we talked a little bit about this in our initial interview. I know that you said writing is one of your passions, correct?
That is definitely correct, yes.
Yeah. So you enjoy writing and speaking. I believe you wanted to embark on some speaking engagements as well. Is that correct?
When the COVID or whatever you want to say, when it allows for gatherings, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very comfortable. I don't want to say very, very comfortable, but I'm excited and I'm passionate about what I do, and it doesn't matter if it's one person or if it's 10,000. I don't care how nervous I am. It's the message that I want. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear, and I love that you can kind of recognize that maybe there might be a little bit of fear or a little bit of hesitation, but you're willing to do it anyway. I find a lot when I talk with business owners in these podcasts that's a true ingredient to success. I mean, it really, just having that drive and having the passion and being so enthusiastic about what it is you do is going to get you really far. So that's great that you have that piece, that you don't lack the confidence to get up and talk in front of people. I love hearing that. I think that's going to help you in the long run. So
Thank you.
Your objectives are to help as many people as possible, to have more people read what you're writing, and to obtain speaking engagements down the road. Those are maybe your 3 overarching goals for your business. Is that not a stretch?
Yes. And that's been pretty much my outlook for the whole entire time. I've got 3 bullet points, and you nailed them all. Yes.
Awesome, great. Okay, so now we want to think about strategy. So I teach my students this at the university level. To write a strategy statement, we might say convince, that, because. So that is convince who. Who are we convincing? Convince that because is the why, right? So you want to, who are we convincing? We're convincing, men and women who have suffered some type of mental, emotional, religious, like you said, abuse, that we want to convince them that you can help them, or you could put something a little more prolific in there. And then why? And then, obviously the why is so that they can reach their highest potential in life, so that they can heal, so that, whatever. It doesn't matter what I put in there, right? Like that's something for you to kind of understand. But it's convinced, and then you label who you're convincing, that, what are you convincing them of? Because why are you convincing them of that? So that's your strategy statement. This is like, it's different than your objective. Your objective is your end goal, but your strategy statement is, okay, how do I get that message to that target market? And then your execution is I'm gonna execute my strategy in these ways. And so right now, it sounds like you have a website, you have a blog, right?
That is correct.
So those are some of the things that you're executing. You also you have a strong LinkedIn presence?
Strong. I don't know what you mean by strong, but yes, LinkedIn is where I get most of the comments on my where I've built the largest following, but it's not like thousands.
Okay, no worries. So the one thing that I'm not seeing on your website is your links to your social media. So like your LinkedIn account. Can I get there from your website?
I'm pretty sure they're there. I'm just sitting in front of my computer, and if you don't mind taking a quick peek but I'm pretty sure they're at least on a computer. I haven't checked my phone, but I have the
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right underneath my blog, you can see there's links there.
Okay. So I'm on a really big monitor.
Oh, I see.
And
so it might have come up. Yeah.
Covering it up. Yeah, it's covering it up a little bit. But good. Now I see you there. Okay. Okay, good. So that's really good. So we call that integration. We're integrating our marketing efforts. So you have a way for people to get you have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So wonderful. I would have done my research beforehand, but because I didn't see those links, let's look, and I've just clicked on Facebook, and I'm going to see the last time you posted was a day ago, 2 days ago, let's see, 2 days ago, 3 days. So it looks like you're doing a really good job of being consistent on posting to your social media page, at least to Facebook.
Yeah, and what I try to post a meme, and then I try to focus them on my article. I post every Sunday, and I post all over social media, and I tend to sort of hint at what I'm going to be writing about, because all the articles are based on emotional healing and personal development. There's aspects of both just about in every week.
Good. This is really good. All right. So we want to go back to a little bit about do your posts right now, and this might not be something that you can answer, but do your posts creatively speak to your target market, right? And I like what I see so far. I like because it's short, and I think a lot of people make the mistake of putting really long posts on social media. But when Twitter came out and they were limiting character use, they did that for a reason. It's because people don't read. People don't have a long attention span. So a lot of the posts that I'm seeing on your Facebook page, at least, are short and sweet, and you're being consistent. So this is all very, very good.
Okay, thank you.
I would challenge your creativity just a little bit.
And I'm going to be truthful with you, because I don't want to take the credit where it's not due. I have a social media butterfly who helps me with a lot of those memes. She's collected hundreds of them over the years, and sometimes she'll make a suggestion, and I'll say, hey, I'm looking for this, and then I'll approve it. But yeah, when I create my own, I use Spark.
Okay, good. All right, good. So yeah, the only thing I'm seeing is sometimes it's hard to read. There's like a light font in front of just try and make it. We want to take all the guesswork out for people. We really want things to pop. We really want it to be easy on the eyes. The message that you're trying to get across, we want it to be really, really clear. So the only thing I'm seeing on some of the posts is the font. The text is, because the posts have like a sun in them and it's bright.
Yes.
I can't quite see what's written there. So
like yesterday's?
Yes, like yesterday's. So that's just it maybe even be like more of that's my preference, right? That might not even be. Is this going to keep you from getting a customer? Absolutely not. Or a client? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? But in the end run,
I appreciate your input. I really do.
Yeah. In the end run, we want to be really clear, really concise, and we just want to make it as easy as possible for people. We don't want to have them, what does that say, squinting their eyes and kind of shielding their monitor or their phone to see what it says, right? So, yeah. All right. So we've done a little bit of research. We know our 3 objectives. We talked about the strategy statement, convince that because. So who are we convincing? What are we convincing them of? And why are we convincing them of that? And then execution. We have the website, we have the blog, and we have social media. So here's the next thing I want to talk about. You talked about the blog in which you post every Sunday. I love that you're integrating your social media posts are pointing people. You're trying to drive traffic to your blogs via the social media posts. That's great. And that's also going to drive them to your website. So that's great. I want to encourage you, since you want to get into speaking, I want to encourage you to somehow try and take snippets of your blog, real short pieces, maybe 30 seconds, 2 minutes. If the blog takes you 5 minutes to read it, then that's what you do. And turn it into some sort of audio, okay? And then post that audio on Instagram or start a channel like I've done with the podcast. But I feel like, and we talked about this before, that people don't read. People have very short attention spans, and we're kind of moving away from this written word society to a very visual. We just want an image and a very audio. We want to hear it or listen to it. We're constantly on the go. So if I don't have to sit at my computer or my phone and read your blog, but I can hear you read your blog, then that might empower me in a way that I'm going to listen to it more regularly. You might reach an entire different audience through having some sort of audio connection with them versus just, this kind of, it's a little more personal. They can hear your voice.
Sure.
They can hear your enthusiasm for the topic. They can hear your sincerity for the topic. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Do you mind?
No, go for it.
All right. Are you talking now? You may have mentioned. Are you talking length, about 30 seconds? Is that a good length, or it just really depends?
Yeah, it really depends on the platform. So I think with an actual podcast, you could get on there and you might not even read your blog. You might just kind of speak from the heart on a particular topic. You might, because you don't want it to sound too monotonous, like you're reading from a script. Or you take pieces from that blog and then you kind of flush it out for listeners a little bit more. And you can also then have a nice call to action. Hey, if you're looking for help, contact me. Hey, if you want to read more, go to my blog. Find me on social media, right? So it's just another touch point, and I just think it's the way consumers are starting to consume media nowadays. So I think that could be helpful, but then it also gives you that voice and that practice for the public speaking. Yeah. So if you're going to post a little audio clip to Instagram, a lot of times video, audio, Instagram will go for like 30 seconds, I think, and then it kind of cuts out or you have to create another post. So
Instagram, it goes like to the, right.
Yeah. So that's why I say like 30 seconds to maybe 5 minutes. It just kind of depends on your platform. It depends on your topic. But I mean to say, do you need to start a blog where you're interviewing people? And no, I don't think you need that. But I do think it might be a fun twist on what you're already doing. And I think it might.
I got a couple more.
Go
I got
ahead.
a couple more questions if you don't mind. I want to go back to specific platforms because I like this idea. And again, I have no fear. And believe me, when my enthusiasm, sometimes when I'm talking, I'm telling myself to calm down, right?
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. I re-listen to my podcast and I'm like, whoa, Jill, take a chill pill.
Yeah. If we're talking, let's start with Instagram. Can it just be audio? Does it need to be video? Because I know everything there. It's weird. So like and I'm gonna make a long question. Twitter. I have a pretty decent presence on Twitter. Can I do just an audio there, or should I just take the Instagram, copy it, and put it on Twitter? And the podcast, I don't even know where to start with that. And then fourthly, am I missing some other platform that I should be posting some kind of audio blurb on?
So let's start with that last question. I always tell people, post to the platforms you're going to be the most consistent on. Don't feel like you need to be on every platform because you really, truly don't. You just need to be on the ones that you can do the best at, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I don't think that you're missing anything as of now. No, I do not believe that you can just do audio. You can do a little selfie video. You can, there are so many easy, simple ways to do this. You and I right now are talking on a conference line that's being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that. You can use, if you have an iPhone, I know I have an iPhone, so I have a voice memo. So I've recorded audio yoga classes using voice memo. And then I take that file and I send it off to the studio that I teach for, and they upload it onto their website. So if you did a short voice recording on from your phone, you could take that. And now I know I don't know if Adobe will allow you to create like a little video. It's not a video because it could be a static image, but your voice is playing in the background. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh,
and
yes,
that would be the post for social media. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a video, but it would be an image, and then your little short podcast, your little short voice snippet is in the background, kind of, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay, cool. So there's a lot of, you don't have to go out and hire and buy equipment and do all these fancy things, and maybe once you're to a point where you start putting money back into your business, then you maybe up the game a little bit, or you have somebody help you with the audio piece so that you are recording in a studio or with a nice microphone or whatever. There's a lot of places you could go with it, but I would just start. That's kind of my advice. Just start. Just because it's not perfect, don't let it hold you back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that then that answers those questions, except for platforms in terms of podcasting. So what I did is I picked SoundCloud, and I picked it just for it was really easy to use. And I think actually my assistant who edits my podcast recommended it to me. Always go to somebody younger. That's what I do whenever I have questions about technology and new emerging social media platforms. Because admittedly, none of this stuff was around when I was in grad school and studying marketing. But yeah, I always have to ask my nieces things like, how do I do this on Snapchat? Or
Sure. Sure.
But yes, so don't be afraid to ask somebody younger. But so I use SoundCloud, and this is what happens. SoundCloud allows me to upload my audio, and I can give each track a name. I can put notes in the episode. So, for example, in this episode, I'm going to put your website and links to your social media so that when people are listening to the episode, then they also have that text and that call to action where they can easily go and click. They don't have to type it in on their own. They can just click from the episode notes right to where we want them to go. And with SoundCloud, I can even schedule. So my next podcast is released on August 25th. That's episode 10. I have that scheduled to just automatically post out. I don't have to be at my computer on the 25th. Yeah. So that's also a really nice feature. And so after I've uploaded my podcast to SoundCloud, I've also gone and created accounts on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on Google Play. And what I've done is, I have to get this right because, hold on, I'm going to go to my, what it does is basically there's a link that SoundCloud provides me that I've originally provided the other platforms. And whenever I update SoundCloud, those platforms broadcast whatever it is I've updated. So it's an RRS feed or an RR. It's an RRS feed, I think, or an RSS feed. I can never remember.
Oh yeah, I've seen those before, and I wonder what they are. Okay, I know of certain things that do that. I have another question. Is there a particular frequency of how often that once a week, 3 times a week? It's just whatever seems to work, or do you have to sort of play with that to see what works for you?
Yeah, so I would play with that and see what works for you. But obviously, the more consistent you are, there's a number of advantages to being consistent, right? But with consistency, you also don't want to diminish the quality, right? So,
correct.
Be as consistent as you can with continually putting out that quality information. But I think if you did once a month, I don't think that's enough to keep people engaged, right? Right. So I do every other week with my podcast. I know, bigger, larger podcasts that do weekly. I'm sure that there's people that do less, and I'm sure that there's people that do more. And for the people that do less, I personally, again, I kind of always default to when I'm consuming something, what are my thoughts on it? And I have been reading there's 2 or 3 podcasts where I'm like, I keep checking them and they have no new episodes out. And I'm like, and like I'm frustrated because I actually want to hear more and they're not providing it. That's a missed opportunity for them to connect with me, right?
Yeah, but I hear now, maybe I'm limiting my thinking because regarding, I'm looking at those 30-second snippets, maybe 1-minute snippets that sort of give a little bit of healing, yet sort of leaves a little bit more yearning. That way people are going to want to contact me. I'm thinking about those kinds of things rather than a longer, 15, 20 minutes at this point. Not that those aren't viable because, like you say, I don't think I'd ever even do those less than once a week. To me, that, like you say, that's going to leave people like they're going to get tired of you because they're going to want you and you're not there. It's like, I'm going to move to find somebody else. But I'm thinking in terms of those shorter ones, the snippets from my blog, that the teasers. That's kind of what I do with my daily memes. I try to make it interactive. People don't always, but I'm trying to get people to think in a real quick, short statement, and think, maybe respond, maybe not. And obviously, I look at the likes, and I want them to grow so I can grow my audience. But that's what I plan on these little snippets, almost kind of more engaging, asking people a question that'll get them to or leave them with a question that'll get them to want to know more. or think for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, is there a question in there? Because I think that you got it. You got it.
Sorry, the question was basically the frequency. Once a week, 3 times a week on the smaller ones. The 30-second to 1 minute ones. That's what I was wondering. Because the daily ones I don't think are overwhelming. People are scrolling in their feed. It's no big deal. But to stop and get people to listen. I know somebody that does them 3 or 4 minutes every day. Like, I just don't have that kind of time to listen.
Right.
Because I'm kind of doing it while at work, which I shouldn't be saying.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
But, yeah.
So if you're posting a quick 30-second snippet, maybe you do it 2 times a week or 3 times a week, and it's leading up to Sunday's topic.
Yes. Okay.
What do you think of that? I would try it.
I think I kind of answered my own question. Is need to see what works, because if I'm doing it 3 times a week and I'm just getting the same people over and over without really adding, then maybe it's too frequent, or maybe it's the wrong it's the wrong premise. I don't know, but I think. Yeah, I think I answered my own question when I just need to see what feels right, what seems to work for me.
Right, and let's talk about growing the audience, because that's definitely a goal, and it's hard. And let me tell you, it takes a very, very long time of being consistent. It takes a very, very long time of, oh my gosh, somebody just called me. My husband's cousin's wife just called me the other day to RSVP to my daughter's birthday party, and she said, "Hey, do you have a podcast, or are you on a podcast? I thought I saw something on your social media about a podcast." And so I've been doing this for about 20 weeks now, right? So it was awesome, and I think she saw it on my personal Instagram versus my business Instagram, and so now I've started to share a little bit more on my personal side, some of my business posts. But so that's just a quick small example of how many times you have to kind of ask and request of somebody to do something, right? For 20 weeks. And so give it time. Don't think because you did 6 months that that's even enough to make a decision on whether or not it's working. When we go back to execution, so we talked about research, your objective, your strategy, and your execution being your main pieces of your integrated marketing plan. When we talk about execution, we're talking about executing the same thing for a year before we measure its results, and before we truly take a look and see if it's been successful or not. And we want to be, like I said, consistent and creative and clear throughout that whole year. So give it some time to marinate. Make sure you're asking people to share your content. Make sure, as one of your call to actions, and hey, share or tag someone who might enjoy this meme, or, something other than just visit www. Right? Because I don't think people spend a ton of time on web browsing websites. Now, I could be wrong, because this is such a deeply personal, somebody who really needs help, they're going to give you the time and the attention that requires to get the help, right? But I would find out if you have Google Analytics installed on your website. Do you know if you have Google Analytics or any analytics?
Yeah, I think I do. I'm just not very good at that kind of stuff, and I need to take more time in doing all that kind of research. But it's kind of like the stuff, it's sort of the irony. I don't really enjoy doing it. I'd rather spend my time writing, but then, I write all these great blogs and 3 or 4 people read them. What's the big deal?
Yeah, and you know what? I talk a lot with business owners about that. It's like when you embark on this type of journey, you end up wearing so many hats. And a lot of times you end up spending more time on the things you don't enjoy than the things that you do enjoy. But I feel like with anything else, if you put in the time, you get to a point where your marketing just kind of automates, and it's a nice little engine, and it's chugging along, and you have to do some checks and balances and some tweaks here and there. But I would encourage you to put in the research, to put in the time, either learn it how to do it yourself or farm it out and hire someone who can help you and get you up and running to that point where you're going along, because then I think you'll find that you can go back and spend more time on the pieces of the business and the aspect of the business that you love. But I do believe very strongly that Google Analytics is going to tell you a lot about who your audience is and help you with that target market research. From a psychographic standpoint, it's going to tell you, are they taking that quiz on your website? Is that what they're most interested in? Is that the page that's most visited? Are they more interested in your book? Because then you know what you need to promote. Hey, if they're just going straight to the link that's the book, then you know you got to promote your book on your social media channels and on our new podcast that I just created for you. that I demanded you start. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So it actually tells you a lot about what direction to head in marketing once you can see what people are doing on your website, what they're most interested in.
You just prompted a good question that I think a lot of your listeners are going to want to hear. When this podcast is ready and it has been broadcast, how would you see me marketing it on my webpage? I mean, isn't that a pretty good question?
Yeah. So what I did with mine is I realized no one's reading my blogs, and I was like, I changed the blog. So if you go to the podcast link on my website, veracreative.com, and you go to podcast, it's actually my blog. But at the top of the page, I have all the links to where my podcast plays on, the SoundCloud, the Spotify, the Apple Play, the Google Play. So I've kind of molded the two together. And then after each podcast episode, I actually try to take people behind the scenes, and that's what my blog has become about. My blog is for those people who are like, hey, that was a cool episode. I want to go see what else she had to say about it, or how she knows this person. I give them a little bit of background sometimes. Sometimes it's a little deeper thought. So that's how I personally did it. But you could also, again, where you have those social media links, you can you'll have a link to SoundCloud or iTunes or whatever it is you choose. You don't have to use SoundCloud. I'm just using that as an example. But whatever channels you end up broadcasting your show on, you would include those social media links. And then the same thing, you just now created even more content for yourself for social media to post about. So
the podcast is not hosted by my website. It's sort of, there's a link where somebody would click it and then it would go to another website where they could download it or listen to it live, or not live, but stream it.
Yeah, what's your website built on, man? Do you know what platform it's built on?
Wix.
It is on Wix. Okay.
Yes.
So I bet that Wix has an app where if you wanted to upload audio clips, you absolutely could. I don't want to say for certain that can be done, but you very well might be able to use your website. And I build a ton with Wix, so I'm going to look into that. I will look into that. And hey, guys, I'll post it in my behind-the-scenes blog. The answer.
And I'll be honest with you. I was with Wix 5 years ago, and I really despised their customer service. And then when I built this latest website, actually I didn't build it. I had it built for me. The person used Wix platform. I'm like, because I was disappointed. But I must say, they have become much better. They're much easier to contact. They are more helpful. Yeah, believe me, three years ago I would have said don't even consider it. But now I think that they have come a long ways in customer service, and that's what's important for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I would 100% agree with that. I've been using Wix for years. I have just never done this, and it's so funny because this idea of doing this, turning your blog into more of an audio blog versus a written blog, I've been trying to think of how to revamp another client's blog, but it just doesn't make sense for them to do audio. So I was like, oh, I got to tell John about this.
Okay.
So here's the thing, though. The advantage to hosting it on other platforms, or at least broadcasting it on other platforms, is that you get a whole slew of listeners who are already listening to other podcasts on those platforms who could possibly come across yours because they searched for something of your nature.
Yeah, you just answered my question.
Yeah. Great. Perfect. Awesome. I'm glad I'm reading minds today. But let's talk about that, too, because another thing I think that's really going to benefit you, and this is something that I don't have all the answers to. I admittedly am not an expert in this. If a client came to me and said, I want help with search engine optimization, I would probably say I am not the person for you. But is it very important? Absolutely. So we're talking about how do we get your website to come up first. Even when I type in, shame doctor, your website does not come up on that first page. Now, if you haven't taken advantage of Wix, actually, speaking of some upgrading that they did, they have a nice, easy way that you can go through your site kind of page by page and tag your pages, and they kind of tell you what text that you need to put, and it should increase your rankings. So if you haven't
Can I tell you something
done
interesting? If you actually type shame doctor as one word, I actually am the first one.
Well, hold on, let me see, because the other thing is you've probably done it so many times and then found your website that it comes up first for you because Google knows you, right? So hold on, I'm going to do it. Well, and even when I start typing it in, because I typed it in this morning on my walk to see where you came up, like even when I type it in on my phone now, I see your Facebook post first, or your Facebook page first.
Correct.
On my phone, and because I've typed it in already to my computer, so I see your Facebook first, and then I see shameonme.net and holistictherapiesdirectory.com.
Yeah, that's another platform I use for marketing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you do come up, shame doctor, one word. Awesome. So that's another thing you want to tell people. Hey, search for me, shame doctor, all one word, to get them to your site and to get them to your pages. That's interesting. I like that. But anyways, going back to SEO, I feel like it's really important. We also, if you think about, when people come to you that they might be hurting and they might be stuck and they might not know that it's shame, they might not have that same label for it. So are they going to necessarily be typing in shame doctor? Probably not, unless they've heard about you, right?
Right.
So
you're
right. What a good SEO person is going to do is they're going to figure out what search terms people use to find coaches and to find therapists. And I think and then you can start using those. You want to put those terms on your website. You want to start blogging with some of those terms. That's really important. You want the copy on your website to be really rich and full of the terms that people are actually using to come across services like yours, because that's all going to help in your rankings and all going to help your search engine optimization. And then you can even get into, down the road, you can get into search engine marketing where you're bidding for certain search terms, because people will pay big money, upwards of probably $20 a click, to get that top spot on Google based off of a certain term. And so people might think like, $20. Well, that's a really high acquisition cost, first of all. Second of all, just because someone clicks on it doesn't mean they're going to ultimately become your customer. And if they don't become your customer, you've just wasted $20.
Yeah.
So it's expensive. It's a very expensive form of marketing, especially in the medical field. The cost per clicks tend to increase dramatically because the competition is very high. But again, I would, if it were me, for these execution pieces, I would really focus on getting some sort of audio version of your blog.
Okay.
I would focus on Google Analytics to figure out when people visit your website, what pages are they going to the most. And, I always just use Google Analytics for my clients because that's just what I'm used to and it's easy. But Wix might also provide analytics too. And then maybe some search engine optimization, some SEO, and you can even start. So one tool, if you look up, they keep changing the name of it. Google loves to bring out apps and then take them away and then change the names of them, and they're crazy. But I want to say it used to be called Google's keyword tool, but now I think it's what is the name of that? I wonder if I can pull it up.
I think I downloaded that on my Chrome browser, which I rarely use.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Now I think it might be keyword planner. I thought it wasn't called keyword anymore. But basically, you can type in phrases, and it'll tell you if that is it'll tell you how many searches per month people on the internet. How many times per month people on the internet. Yeah. So that is actually a good place to start too, because if you just start typing in terms, and I mean, the guy that I know that does a good job with this, he'll come up for my business, he probably came up with 500-600, maybe 1,000 terms that people might use. I mean, it's just you have to really get creative and have a mega brainstorming session as to what people might type in to find someone like you, right?
Right.
But if you start plugging those into that tool, that keyword tool, it'll give you a good idea. And then I would start, the ones that are searched often, I would start trying to use some of those terms in your social media posts, on your blog, on your website. And that's just a real kind of organic, slow way you can get it started. But for somebody like you, I really think that search engine optimization, going a little bit deeper with it, is going to be helpful.
Can I just interject one thing?
Yep.
In this turbulent climate we've created, not just here in the U.S. but globally, with so many things going on, one of the things that you hear a lot about is healing. It's how important it is to heal. And then you listen to the advice people give how to heal. And basically, there is none. What I've heard is it takes time to heal. Well, first of all, time does not heal all wounds. That is the worst thing you could ever believe. All right? It only makes them seem less relevant. And healing is, as you can see, I'm getting a little more passionate. Healing is probably that key word. I like to use emotional healing versus physical healing, but healing in general, I think, is what a lot of people will stumble upon, because there's so much talk about it, in aspect of our country, communities, everything, and I think that is probably the biggest key word, and what I want people to find, because I want them to know that healing is possible. So many people think, oh, I'll never be able to heal from this. Well, then if you want to think that, that's probably one of the reasons that you won't. And I don't want to get into it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone there. But healing is vital, and that's what I want people to know, that things can be healed. That's where I want people to contact me.
So I think you bring up a really good point in terms of using buzzwords, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, consider that just because that's what you want people to find you using might not be how they find you using, because that might not be in their repertoire yet, right?
Yes.
That
Good
might
point.
not be
Thank
on
you.
their mind yet. Yeah. So they might type in like help getting out of an abusive relationship, or whatever it may be, or like, I think it takes a pretty long time for people to even realize that, wait a minute, you mean I have my religion caused shame? I have religious shame? That's a thing? So are people going to be typing in, religious shame? Probably not, because that's part of that's a term you would pick up on the journey of healing, right? But if
Correct,
people are, their entry point for your services, they haven't healed yet. They don't have the vocabulary. They don't have the capacity. And I'm not saying this negatively. I'm just saying you're the person that gives them the tools and the words and the pieces to the puzzle so that they can start putting it together. But we have to get to where we're thinking of, the psychographic state of somebody before they even embark on the journey, and what might they be using? How might they be describing what it is that they need? And it could be, like I said, something as simple as help, which I'm sure then is a hugely widely popular and competitive word.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be interesting. I think we could probably talk about just the keywords all day long, because there's just so many of them. But I think you're probably very smart in using some of those buzzwords that are out there right now in mainstream media. You're going to be up against them in terms of competition. That could be a lot more expensive, but where do we get our language from? A lot of it comes from culture, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that help?
Absolutely. This has been very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so let's recap. So research, we want to keep up on our research on not just, like I said, our competition and our industry, but also on the demographics and the psychographics. Objective and strategy, what's your goal? Convince that because. Who are we convincing? What are we convincing them of? And why are we convincing them of that? And then your execution and your creativity, your social media posts, your blogs. Do they speak to your strategy? Does your strategy connect with that? Does that make sense?
Yes,
absolutely. When you're done with that social media post, you want to look at it and say, now, have I convinced that because? Right? Does that post do a good job of that? Does it need more? Does it need less? I always tell people less is more. Usually what we need is less. Usually we try to cram too much information, but I like what I see so far on your pages in terms of content, just short and sweet. But I do think we need to mix up the media a little bit, not just a static image with text leading people to your website. I think we need to branch out a little bit. I think your voice needs to be heard. I think your passion needs to be heard, and that's hard to do when you're just writing. But I think if we get little clips, I think you can post those to LinkedIn. I think you can DM doctors and start to reach out B2B. If you say, here's a clip of something, just will you take 5 minutes to listen to this? If you have any clients that might benefit from it, please contact me, or can I have time on your schedule today? You know how to network, right? I don't have to teach you that. But I think networking is going to be a good execution point for you down the road. And not just with doctors, but, there's a lot of different types. You look at yoga. Yoga used to just be yoga, but now there's yoga for runners and yoga for athletes and yoga for children and yoga for, there's chair yoga and dog yoga and goat yoga. And I'm not lying. Right. Those things exist. And there's yoga for trauma. There's yoga for healing. And I think you could be a vital voice in, teacher trainings. Like, I'm a yoga teacher, and I've been a part of several teacher trainings just because I'm knowledgeable about a few particular areas of yoga. So I was a part of a yoga teacher training in which I taught the teachers in training how to give hands-on assist to students, like how to come in not like a creepy person touching them everywhere, right? But how to kind of honor somebody's space and how to come in and how to come out and make it be like seamless and make your touch feel like you're supporting and assisting versus correcting something they're doing wrong. And then I've also been part of a yoga teacher training to teach just like inversions and arm balances, and because that's another thing that I'm knowledgeable about. So I've been able to take really small pieces of a larger picture and contribute in teacher trainings. And I think that yoga studios are a lot of times they're looking for that other voice to come in and be like, how can I make my teacher training more robust? It's a good marketing for them too, because it's going to get more people to sign up for their training when their customers know, oh, cool, I get to hear from this guy, and he's well versed in trauma or shame or whatever it may be. Do you see where I'm going with that? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm being 100% clear.
Sure.
For them.
No. You've actually given me some good ideas, so it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. So we've got research, we've got objective strategy, and then our execution, and then don't forget about that business plan, because I feel like that will really be helpful for you.
Yeah,
and
that's actually number one. That's actually number one, and I noticed that you lifted off your list last time.
Okay, sorry.
It's certainly on my mind.
Good. Yeah. So I just would encourage you to kind of play around with some of those ideas and to come up with your own, because like I said, you know what your goals are the best. But now we have to start thinking about what's the strategy and what's the execution to actually make those goals come to life, right?
Definitely.
To achieve those goals. And I think just starting there I think it'll be really helpful for you. What do you think?
I think that sounds great. Yes. Well, very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish we could have talked a little bit too about your book, but let's make a promise to reconnect, because I would love to talk with you in a few months, maybe like a 6-month checkup or a year checkup, and see where you're at with everything, to see
Sure.
what works and what doesn't work. And just I want to encourage you to be. I think you are open-minded. I think you are a pretty flexible guy, but same thing with your marketing. All those qualities we want in us as a human and as a person, we want them in our marketing as well, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't want to be so stuck in our ways that we never want to change something. But hopefully this will like literally give your brand more of a voice, and your brand will be heard, and business will grow. That's my hope for you.
All right. Thank you. Me too. And I'm definitely open to reconnecting with you and letting you know how much success you've brought me.
Great. Thank you. Well, hold on the line
Thank you, Jill.
1 second. Yeah, hold on the line just 1 second. I want to remind listeners that every week we give away coffee. All you need to do is share the podcast episode. Some of the apps have a share button and they work. Some have a share button and they don't work. And if you can't figure out how to do it, just take a screenshot of the episode from your phone, post it to your social media, tag Vera Creative and my guest from that episode, and you'll be entered to win. And then again, I will put how to reach John, his website, his social media links in the notes for the podcast, and I'll get that question about Wix Audio answered for you guys. Thanks for listening.